All right, welcome back on the Halloween edition of Titans Talk. Titans starting to scare some people in the AFC after beating the Jaguars on Thursday night. Now 4-4 moving to the second half of the year, starting with a trip to San Diego on Sunday. Titans will try and end a 6-game losing streak in what is now called Qualcomm Stadium out there against the Chargers, dating back to the Warren Moon Oiler days in 1990. See if they can reverse some bad recent luck and get above 500 for the first time in a long time, at least at this point of the season. Aaron was kind enough to wait through the break. Don't forget our lines are open at 737-7767. Aaron, thanks for waiting. You are next up here on Titans Talk.
Yes, I'd just like to make a couple of comments. Number one, I think the Titans will win their division.
Okay, nice.
I believe that Derrick Henry should be starting with Mary in the backfield instead of swapping them back and forth. I think both of them should start together. They're more effective that way, I believe.
You know what? I would like to see that more often. I don't know if you can. Starters in football obviously is a little bit subjective anyway, because oftentimes it depends on formation. But I would like to see that more often. I don't know if it can be like your base set because of how much you need to pass in the NFL and, frankly, how effective they've been in some of the sets that they run. But I think what you saw the other night is the type of weapon that Derrick Henry can be. And so I'm with you. Even if it's just a handful of plays a game, I would love to see them both out there because I think it will make defenses, one, have to defend it, but it also means they have to prepare for it a lot more. And as much as you can get in other teams' heads and affect their game planning, I think it makes the entire offense more effective.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, Aaron, we appreciate the call, and I think a lot of people love the optimism of Titans going to win the division. We'll see. It's on the table for them, and that is what's so exciting right now for them is the fact that it's out there. They're going to play meaningful football games here in the second half of the year, and they're going to have those opportunities. As frustrating as the loss to the Colts was a week or so ago, they're right there in the mix. They're in front of the Colts in the division. They're only a game back of the Texans, and guess what? They go to Indianapolis in 3 weeks. If you were really supposed to win that game a week or so ago, and I think the Titans probably should have, go to Indianapolis and win. End that streak and jump right back up in the division race. You've got Jacksonville again at the end of the year, followed by Houston in the season finale. I mean, think about it. How much fun could this be if the Titans can put themselves in a position where that final game against Houston is for the division title? What if that final game, that first weekend of January, is for the division title, and the Titans could be moving into the playoffs? And, oh, by the way, you win the AFC South. Doesn't matter what the record is. You could be 7-9 or 8-8, 9-7, whatever. You're going to be hosting a playoff game. If we would have had this discussion back in training camp, you probably would have thought I was nuts, and maybe still do. But that opportunity is at least in front of the Titans now. And it's been a long time since that was the case. 2011 is really the last time that they were in a race, in the playoff contention at the midway point of the year. And that's the position they're in now. We'll see what they can do with it. Let's go to David. David, good evening.
Am I on?
You are on.
Okay, I'd like to say that last week, Thursday, my sister passed away on that day, and she was a real big Titan fan, and they won that game, and I felt, that was sentimental to me, like, with that. And I'm excited about this team. I've been excited about this team a long time since Steve McNair and did it for the place. And I got a real good feeling about them, and I just want to let you know how I feel about the Titans right now. I think they got a chance.
Well, David, we appreciate that, and let me pass along. We're sorry. Our condolences and prayers for your loss and your family's loss as well. that obviously is a difficult situation. We ourselves here at News Channel 5 lost a great friend of the sports department, friend of the newsroom, friend of so many around Middle Tennessee. Mark Bellinger, our great reporter, passed away last Thursday as well, on game day for the Titans. Passed away in the early part of the afternoon after a long battle with cancer. His funeral was today, but for those people who know, Mark was a big Titans fan. He had, even as sick as he was at the end and as weak as he was at the end, he was very disappointed when they lost that game to the Colts a week ago Sunday. He remarked to several people who were around him that day about that and how disappointing it was. So David, kind of like you, I think a few of us looked at Thursday night's game as Mark smiling down a bit on the Titans and finally getting to see those Titans win one of those division games and get back to relevance. And that's a lot of fun for so many people. So again, our condolences to you and your family on their loss, and glad that the Titans maybe give you a bit of a ray of sunshine there. And all of a sudden there's a lot of optimism for Titans fans. And look, maybe the Titans are not a Super Bowl contender this year, but you have to start somewhere. And when you look at where this team was, winning 5 games total over the past 2 years, John Robinson comes in as GM, Mike Mularkey's the permanent head coach. The job that those two gentlemen have done of really changing the culture of that locker room, bringing in some different talent, bringing in a more physical atmosphere. The offensive line here has been atrocious for 5 years, really. They've struggled up front on the offensive line. And you keep drafting there, you keep putting it together. All of a sudden, this is one of the best offensive lines in football. You bring in DeMarco Murray, you draft Derrick Henry. All of a sudden, a running game that just has been non-existent essentially since I've covered the team over the past 5 years. All of a sudden, now in year 6, you got a pretty good running game. Marcus Mariota continues to grow up. These receivers are starting to grow up. The defense is coming together. There's still some holes on this team. It's going to be fun to see what John Robinson and Mike Mularkey do in the offseason to try to address some of those things. But for year 1, after a 6-month offseason, to be in this position, I think you got to give those guys a lot of credit. And you got to give the locker room a lot of credit, because there hasn't been a lot of success around here, but they believed from the moment they walked into training camp that this year was going to be different. And even when they started 1-3, they believed that this team was different. They believed that progress was being made, and it was only a matter of time before the wins came. And they have. In the last 4 weeks, 3 wins, 4 games. Now we see where they go from here. Because admittedly, the wins, as you look at them, Detroit's basically a 500 team. The Browns haven't won yet. Miami's a below 500 team. The Jaguars are a below 500 team, last place in the division. You got to beat some good teams at some point. If you're going to be a playoff team, if you're going to be a division champion, you're going to have to beat somebody who's pretty good. But now all of a sudden the Titans have gone from being what has been the worst team in the league the last 2 years to a team that's clearly not that. They're much better than that at this point. And now we'll find out in the second half of the year if they can go from being an average team, kind of a middle-of-the-road NFL team that's going to beat the bad teams and maybe struggle against the good teams, to seeing if they can become a good team. They can beat some of those other teams and become a playoff contender. Time for another break. We'll come back. More analysis, more sound on the way. Plus, our phone lines are wide open. Open bank of calls, or open bank of lines for you to call. 737-7767 is the number. Stay tuned. More Titans talk coming your way right after this.